Have you ever had that specific, slightly eerie experience of walking through a city at night?
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe it's London, maybe it's New York, or, just your local town center, and you look up.
Right, you look up at the glowing rectangles.
Exactly, the glowing rectangles of the windows, and you see a silhouette or the flicker of a massive TV screen, maybe just a hand pulling a curtain shut,
Mm.
and it suddenly hits you that you are physically only a few feet away from another human being. I mean, you could throw a stone and hit their life.
Yeah, but you are completely invisible to them.
Completely, and they are a total mystery to you.
It's really the fundamental paradox of modern urbanism, isn't it? We are stacked on top of each other.
Literally.
We share walls, we share sewage lines, we breathe the exact same exhaust fumes, yet we maintain these incredibly rigid psychic force fields.
Force fields, yes. That's a great way to put it.
You can be surrounded by 10 million people and still be profoundly, dangerously isolated.
And that tension, that vibrating line between being crowded and being alone, between being watched and being seen, that is the absolute heartbeat of the source material we are unpacking today.
It really is.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are taking a scalpel to Invisible Girl, a novel by Lisa Jewell.
This is such a fascinating text to dig into. Lisa Jewell is, she's often called the queen of domestic noir.
Right.
But I think that label almost undersells what she's doing here. This isn't just a standard thriller about a missing girl.
No, not at all.
It's a full-on sociological study.
It really is. We've got a massive stack of notes, reviews, and the text itself right here. And what really struck me is that she's using the thriller format to talk about three very heavy things. Class, prejudice, and the concept of invisibility as a weapon.
Yeah, she takes that word invisible and turns it into a kaleidoscope. Over the next hour or so, we're going to look at how invisibility is a shield for some characters.
A prison for others.
Exactly. And for one specific character, it actually becomes a way to hunt. Spooky. I love it. Now, before we get into the weeds, let's lay out the mission for today's deep dive.
Let's do it.
We are going to explore the geography of Hampstead, London, which honestly is a character in itself.
Oh, absolutely. The setting is crucial.
We're going to profile our three colliding forces: a troubled girl, a incredibly wealthy family, and a so-called creek next door. And we are going to talk about the incel phenomenon because that is central to this plot.
And we really have to talk about assumptions. If there is one major takeaway for you listening today, it's this. Check your blind spots.
Check your blind spots. I like that.
Because the danger in this book, and honestly often in real life, rarely comes from the person you're busy staring at. It comes from the person you've decided isn't worth looking at.
Ominous. Okay, I have to drop the disclaimer right now. We are doing a full deep dive today.
Nothing held back.
That means we are talking plot twist, we are talking the ending, we are talking about exactly who did what to whom. So if you haven't read the book and you care about spoilers, pause this. Go read it. It's a total page-turner. You'll get through it fast.
You really will.
Yeah.
Then come back. But if you're ready to analyze the psychology of this story with us right now, stay right here.
Let's start exactly where the book starts, the geography.
The geography.
Because in a story about class and hidden secrets, map placement is just, it's everything.
So paint the picture for us. The book is set in Hampstead, London. Now, for anyone listening who isn't familiar with London geography, what does Hampstead signify? Is it just like rich people?
It's not just rich. It's a very specific flavor of rich.
Okay, what flavor is that?
Hampstead is the village on the hill. It's old money, but it's also intellectual wealth. It's not just bankers driving Ferraris.
Right.
It's where Sigmund Freud lived. It's where famous poets and actors live. It's leafy, it's historic, and it feels incredibly safe and preserved.
It sounds idyllic, like a postcard.
It is, but, and this is the massive but that drives the entire novel, London doesn't allow for pure paradises.
It's too dense for that.
Exactly. Hampstead sits right next to the grit. The book focuses on a specific junction where these two vastly different worlds grind against each other.
Like tectonic plates.
Yes. On one side of the street, you have the Fours family. They live in a stunning multi-million-pound property, manicured hedges, expensive alarm systems, the absolute works.
Yeah, on the other side.
Across the street, the vibe changes instantly. You have a row of older, slightly shabbier terraced houses, and specifically, you have what the wealthy neighbors call the dark house.
The dark house. That's the home of Owen Pick, right? One of our main characters.
Correct. And the text gives us this incredible, highly specific visual detail to show us that Owen just doesn't belong there. It's the armchair in the driveway.
The armchair in the driveway. It's such an oddly specific detail. Why does that matter so much? I mean, is it just about him being messy?
No, it's about signaling. Think about it from a sociological perspective. In a neighborhood where everyone cares deeply about curb appeal.
Right, where the front garden is basically a public performance.
Exactly. A performance of your status, your wealth, your control over your life. Leaving a rotting, wet armchair on the pavement is an act of rebellion, or at the very least, an act of just giving up.
It says, I don't play by your rules. I don't care about your aesthetics.
Yes, it signals decay. To the wealthy neighbors, like the Fours family across the street, that armchair is a massive eyesore.
It's an offense to them.
It marks the house as unsafe or unpredictable. It makes the people inside seem suspicious before they've even walked out the front door.
And then there's a third element to this geography, isn't there? We have the rich house, we have the creepy house, and then the gap.
The building plot. This is so crucial to the story. It's an undeveloped slice of land right between the houses.
Just sitting there empty.
The book describes it beautifully, but also terrifyingly. It's a void, it's completely overgrown with brambles, it's dark, and it's where the urban foxes live.
The text actually mentions the foxes screaming at night, which, if you've never heard a fox scream, it sounds remarkably like a human scream. It is bone-chilling.
It really is blood-curdling. So you have this brilliant psychological setup, the civilized wealth of the Fours family, looking out their spotless windows at the decay of Owen's house.
And sandwiched between them is this wild, primal darkness of the building plot.
It's an absolute recipe for paranoia.
And that paranoia isn't just atmospheric, right? It's not just a spooky vibe. There's a very real, physical threat happening in the background when the book opens.
Yes. This isn't just people feeling uneasy about their property values. There is a predator active in the neighborhood.
This is the inciting incident for the community's entire mindset.
Right. The book opens in a climate of intense fear. Several women have been sexually assaulted in the local area.
Women are being grabbed in the dark, pulled into the shadows.
So now because of that, every shadow looks dangerous. Every single man walking alone at night is suddenly a suspect. The basic social contract of the neighborhood is completely fraying.
And fear acts like a lens, doesn't it? It narrows your vision.
Perfectly said. You stop seeing nuance, and you start looking for archetypes. You look for the bad guy.
You want someone to blame so you can feel safe again. And because of that rotting armchair and the dark windows and the fact that he lives with his aunt...
Owen Pick fits the suit perfectly.
He does. But before we fully dissect Owen, and we really need to get into his head, we have to meet the character who ties this whole physical geography together. The title character.
The invisible girl.
Saffyre Maddox.
Saffyre.
Saffyre is 17 years old. The description of her in the text is striking. She's mixed race. She has these beautiful green eyes, curly hair. She sounds like someone who would naturally turn heads. So why is she invisible?
Because she's invisible by design. This is her primary survival strategy. She wears these massive, oversized hoodies. She hunches her shoulders up. She walks with her head down.
Trying to blend into the pavement.
She is actively trying to erase herself from the visual landscape.
That's a really heavy thing for a 17-year-old to be doing. I mean, most teenagers are absolutely desperate to be seen.
Right, but Saffyre is different because she carries a massive load of trauma. She lives with her uncle Aaron, who, by the way, is a lovely character.
One of the few genuinely good, uncomplicated men in the whole book.
Truly, but she's carrying deep damage from her childhood.
The notes mention severe self-harm. And I want to be careful how we discuss this, but the book is very visceral about it. It's not the stereotypical cry for help kind of self-harm that media often portrays.
No, it's highly secretive.
She uses paper clips. She uses paper clips to scratch her ankles.
Inside her socks.
Inside the socks. That detail really stuck with me. Why there?
Because it's strictly for her. It's not for the world to see. It's not communicative. It's about externalizing internal pain in a place where it can still be entirely hidden.
A mechanism of control.
Yes. When the emotions inside feel too big or too chaotic, focusing on a precise, sharp physical sensation can be grounding. It's tragic, obviously, but for her, in that moment, it's functional.
And this trauma, this pain she's managing, led her to seek professional help. Which is where the threads of the story really start to tangle. Because she didn't just go to any therapist.
No, she went to Roan Fours.
Roan Fours, the father of the wealthy family living right across the street. The man in the perfect house. He's a child psychologist.
And this professional relationship, it gets very complicated. It's not just doctor and patient, is it? At least not from Saffyre's side of things.
No. And this brings up a fascinating psychological concept. It's a textbook example of transference.
Right.
Let's break down transference for everyone listening. We hear that word tossed around in TV shows or movies, but what does it actually mean in a clinical setting?
Well, in therapy, you are opening up your deepest, most painful wounds to a person who is sitting there listening to you with unconditional positive regard.
They are totally focused on you.
They are safe, they are attentive, and they're often the very first person who truly gets you. So it is very, very common for the patient to project their unmet emotional needs onto the therapist.
They transfer those feelings.
Exactly. Sometimes it's romantic love, sometimes it's parental love. They transfer what they are lacking onto the doctor.
And Saffyre fell hard.
She did. She became totally obsessed with Roan. She viewed him as her absolute savior, the only person in the world who fixed her.
So when he decided she was cured and ended their sessions,
She was devastated.
she felt like she was being dumped.
Even worse than being dumped, she felt completely abandoned. It triggered all of her original deep-seated abandonment issues from her childhood. So she just couldn't let go. She started stalking him.
Stalking is such an ugly word, but honestly, looking at her actions in the text, there's no other word for it.
Yeah.
She didn't just casually follow him on Instagram. She was physically there.
She camped out. Remember that building plot we mentioned earlier? The dark gap between the houses with the screaming foxes?
Yeah.
That became Saffyre's literal command center. She spent months hiding in the brambles, physically sitting in the dirt, just watching the Fours' house.
That is terrifyingly dedicated.
She learned their entire schedule. She learned the digital code to their front gate. She watched them eat dinner through the windows.
And she actually befriended a fox while she was out there.
She did. There's this semi-tame fox she feeds. It's a brilliant literary device by Jewell because it aligns Saffyre with the wild part of the city. She's not part of the civilized, warm house. She's part of the wild, unseen, nocturnal landscape.
But here's the kicker. She wasn't just watching them eat dinner and live this perfect life. She saw things nobody else saw.
That's the true power of invisibility. When people think they're alone, when they think the curtains are closed enough, they show their true selves.
And Saffyre realized that this supposedly perfect family was completely fracturing. And specifically, she realized that Roan, her savior, her absolute hero, was a liar.
He was having an affair.
So she's sitting out there in the cold bushes worshiping this man and simultaneously watching him betray his wife. That has got to completely mess with your head.
Oh, it fuels the obsession even more.
Yeah.
Because now she holds his secret. It gives her this bizarre sense of power over him, even if he doesn't know she's there watching.
Okay, so we've effectively set the board here.
Yeah.
We have Saffyre hiding in the bushes, watching the Fours. We have the Fours inside, pretending to be a happy family. And then we have our third major player, the man in the dark house with the rotting armchair, Owen Pick.
Owen. This is where I think the book gets really brave. Because Owen is hard to like.
Hard to like is putting it mildly. Let's look at his profile. He's 33 years old. He's a virgin. He lives with his aunt. And all the neighbors think he's an absolute creep. But the book goes so much deeper than just portraying him as socially awkward.
It does. It delves straight into the psychology of the incel.
We really need to pause here and define this properly because it's vital to the plot. Incel. It stands for involuntary celibate. But over the years, it's become way more than just a literal description of relationship status, hasn't it? It's an entire ideology.
Absolutely. And it's important to state we're analyzing how the book presents this. We aren't endorsing any of this worldview. But yes, it's a subculture. It exists largely online, and it's defined by men who feel that they are unable to find a romantic or sexual partner, despite desperately desiring one.
Right. But the ideology part, often referred to as taking the black pill, suggests that this isn't just a matter of bad luck or poor social skills.
Exactly. They believe it's a massive systemic injustice. They believe that women are inherently shallow, that society is completely rigged against beta males, and that they themselves are victims of a cruel genetic lottery.
Then Owen is sliding rapidly down this slope.
He is in a full spiral.
Yeah.
He feels the entire world has rejected him because he's not classically handsome, he's not charismatic. And instead of trying to, say, improve his social skills or expand his horizons,
He retreats. He goes onto these online forums.
the echo chambers.
Yes. He goes into these really dark corners of the internet where other angry, lonely men validate his absolute worst thoughts.
They tell him it's not your fault, it's their fault. Women are the enemy.
The book gives us some really disturbing details about his everyday behavior, too. There's the white food thing. He only eats white food. Is that just a quirk to make him seem weird? Or does it actually say something deeper about his psychology?
I think it's a clear signifier of arrested development.
Like a toddler who only eats plain pasta.
Exactly. It's childlike. It suggests a profound need for extreme control and a total refusal to engage with the messiness and complexity of the adult world. He wants things bland, he wants them safe and predictable.
But it also intensely alienates him. I mean, in a place like Hampstead, where foodie culture and going out to bistros is a major form of social currency, refusing to eat anything with color or texture immediately marks him as an extreme outsider.
And then there's the trouble at work. This is the real catalyst for his terrible week. He's a teacher, right?
He is. He's a computer science teacher at a local college.
Yeah.
And right as the story's getting going, he gets suspended.
And the accusations against him are cringy.
Very. They aren't straightforward physical assault, but they are deeply, deeply uncomfortable boundary violations. He was accused of flicking sweat at female students while dancing at the Christmas party.
And calling a student radiant.
Great radiant. I mean, it sounds like a nice compliment in a vacuum, but coming from a 33-year-old male teacher to a teenage female student, it's incredibly loaded.
This is where Lisa Jewell navigates the gray area of the Me Too era very skillfully. We get to see both sides. If you look purely at Owen's perspective, he insists these were complete misunderstanding.
Right. He claims he was just dancing enthusiastically and the sweat flew off him by total accident. He claims radiant was literally just a vocabulary word he was using.
So the reader has to ask, do we believe him?
That's the central question for his character. Is he a subtle predator testing the waters? Or is he just a tragically socially illiterate man who has zero understanding of boundaries?
The tragedy of Owen is that he completely lacks social calibration. He does not know how to read the room. But because he's already angry and because he's steeped in these toxic incel forums, he doesn't apologize when he's confronted.
No, he gets totally defensive.
He feels persecuted. He genuinely thinks he is the victim of a witch hunt.
And that extreme defensive just makes him look exponentially more guilty.
Precisely. And so he vents this boiling rage online. He writes truly disgusting, violent things about women on these message boards, not necessarily because he's actually about to go out and kill someone, because he desperately wants to hurt the world that he feels hurt him.
It's a digital tantrum.
Yes, but if you're an outsider looking in at his life, you don't see a sad tantrum. You see a massive red flag. You see a threat.
And the person looking in the hardest is Kate Fours, the mother living across the street.
Kate is the primary lens through which the whole neighborhood sees Owen. She is deeply anxious. She knows there is a real predator attacking women in the area. And she looks out her window and sees this strange man pacing around at night.
Because Owen is a chronic insomniac who walks to clear his head.
Right. But she just sees him staring at her house.
Which, to be fair, he is doing, just maybe not for the malicious reasons she assumes.
But you can see why she does the math. Weird guy, plus walking aimlessly at night, plus sexual assaults in the neighborhood equals monster.
And she doesn't just worry about it. She actually acts on this fear. She calls the police on him.
Just on a pure hunch, she reports him as acting suspicious. And that single phone call is the domino that knocks everything else down. It officially puts Owen's name in the police system right before the real tragedy actually happens.
So the players are all set. The tension is incredibly high. And then comes Valentine's night. The night Saffyre Maddox finally disappears.
This is the major pivot point of the novel.
Yeah.
Saffyre is just gone, vanished into thin air. And the last person to admit seeing her,
Owen Pick.
It looks bad for him.
It looks incredibly bad. It looks catastrophic. He admits to the police that he saw a girl in a hoodie near his house. And then forensics get involved, and they eventually find Saffyre's phone case in the grass right by his property.
And worse, they find blood on his garden wall.
Blood on the wall. I mean, if I'm sitting on a jury and I hear that, I'm thinking, case closed, lock him up.
And that's exactly what the entire community thinks. This is confirmation bias in absolute overdrive. They had already decided he was a creep because of the armchair and the white food.
Now they have physical blood.
The media completely descends on him. They dig up all his horrific online forum posts. They find out about his suspension from the college. The narrative practically writes itself for the tabloids. Angry incel snaps and kills local girl.
It fits so perfectly. It completely satisfies our human need for a simple, digestible story. We desperately want the bad guy to look and act like a bad guy.
But we know Lisa Jewell doesn't write simple stories. While the police are tearing Owen's life apart, searching his hard drives, looking for a body, the real story is actually happening across the street.
Inside the perfect house.
Inside the Fours family, let's talk about them. Because if Owen is the convenient scapegoat, the Fours are the ones actually holding the dark secrets. Kate, the mom, she's unraveling.
She is vibrating with stress on every page. And as you read, you start to find out that her intense suspicion of Owen might actually be a psychological deflection.
She's so hyper-focused on the danger outside the house because she literally cannot handle looking at the danger inside her house.
She has a serious history of paranoia regarding her husband, Roan.
Although paranoia might be the wrong word considering she was entirely right, he is a serial cheater.
But her aim was off. A year prior to the main events, she convinced herself that Roan was sleeping with Saffyre.
Wait, she thought her husband was sleeping with his teenage traumatized patient?
She did. She was so convinced that she hacked into his private emails. She broke confidentiality and read his patient notes. She basically became a stalker herself, trying to prove it.
She eventually realized that Saffyre really was just a patient, but by then, the core trust in the marriage was totally eradicated.
So you have a marriage that looks beautiful from the street, but inside, it is a hollow shell.
And then there are the kids, Georgia and Josh. Georgia seems like a fairly typical, cynical teenager, but Josh is the puzzle piece that just doesn't seem to fit anywhere.
Josh is 14. He's frequently described as slow or just distinctly different from his peers. He marches to his own rhythm. He's extremely quiet. And he still hugs his mom when he comes home from school.
He sounds very sweet, almost like a non-entity in all this drama.
He's invisible in his own way. His parents are so intensely wrapped up in their own adult dramas. Roan with his secret affairs, Kate with her spiraling anxiety, that they don't really see Josh at all.
They see a vulnerable child who needs protecting. They absolutely do not see a young man who is making his own complex choices.
And in a book literally called Invisible Girl, the golden rule is you have to watch the characters that nobody else is watching.
Exactly. While everyone, including the police, is looking at Owen Pick, Kate starts to find things in Josh's bedroom that make her blood run cold.
Oh, the scene with the carrier bag. That gave me actual chills. She's in his room, maybe cleaning, or maybe just snooping, and she finds a plastic bag hidden away.
And inside the bag, her husband's running gear. But it smells entirely wrong.
It smells musky, damp, like wet earth and sweat.
And hidden underneath those clothes, a full balaclava.
Nothing says innocent teenage hobby like a hidden balaclava wrapped in sweaty clothes.
And it gets worse. She finds a handwritten list. A list of dates, and when Kate checks those dates against the news, they perfectly match the nights of the sexual assaults in the neighborhood.
If I'm Kate in that moment, I'm thinking, my husband is a serial liar, my neighbor's a certified creep, but my son is my sweet, quiet son, actually a monster.
It's the ultimate terrifying nightmare for a parent. The realization that the call might be coming from inside the house, so she confronts him. She literally drags him to the police station. And this is where the floor completely drops out of the narrative.
But wait, before we fully get into that police station confrontation, we have to talk about Tilly. Because she's another massive piece of this puzzle that totally threw me off while reading.
Tilly is George's friend. And earlier in the timeline of the book, she claimed that she was sexually assaulted right outside the Fours' house. This incident was a huge part of the rising panic in the neighborhood.
Right. It escalated everything. But then later on, she takes it all back. She tells her mother and the police that she made the whole thing up. She lied.
Which is a devastating plot point to read because it reinforces that horrible misogynistic trope that women cry wolf about assault. It gives direct ammunition to people like Owen who think women are just manipulators out to ruin men's lives.
But you have to ask, was she really lying? Or was she just incredibly scared?
She was absolutely terrified. It turns out Tilly really was attacked, but during the assault, she saw the attacker's face, and it was a boy she recognized, a boy named Harrison John.
Harrison John. That name just keeps popping up like a bad penny. He's the boy who originally traumatized Saffyre when she was only 10 years old, isn't he?
The very same one. He's back in the neighborhood, and when he attacked Tilly, he threatened her to keep her quiet. He told her, "I know exactly where you live."
So her recanting her statement wasn't a malicious lie at all. It was a desperate, panicked attempt to protect herself from a violent predator who knew her home address.
Exactly. So while the entire police force and the media are completely obsessed with destroying Owen Pick, The real predator, Harrison John, is walking the streets totally free because his victims are too paralyzed by fear to identify him.
And this brings us right back to Josh. Kate drags Josh into the police station. She firmly believes she's turning in a rapist. She thinks her sweet, quiet 14-year-old son is the one terrorizing these women.
I cannot even fathom the guilt and horror she must be feeling in that waiting room.
But then Josh finally speaks, and the entire story flips 180 degrees.
This is the twist with a capital T.
What was Josh actually doing with the hidden balaclava and the muddy running gear?
He wasn't hurting those women. He was hunting the man who was.
He was a teenage vigilante.
It turns out Josh and Saffyre actually knew each other. They met out there in the overgrown building plot. Two invisible kids, the traumatized girl in the oversized hoodie, and the neurodivergent boy who didn't fit in at school.
They found a profound connection sitting in the dirt and the brambles.
They did, and Saffyre eventually told him everything. She told him that her childhood abuser, Harrison John, was back in the area, and that he was the one attacking the women.
And Josh, this 14-year-old kid who still hugs his mom and seems so utterly passive, he decided to help her take him down.
He stole his dad's running gear to disguise his body shape. He wore the balaclava so his face wouldn't be recognized in the dark.
So the creepy figure that people kept seeing running around the neighborhood at night, it wasn't a predator at all. It was Josh desperately trying to catch the predator.
And that strange, musky smell on the hidden clothes wasn't from a violent struggle. It was simply the smell of the urban foxes. It was the smell of the wild garden where he and Saffyre were hiding every night, just waiting for Harrison to strike so they could physically stop him.
This completely and beautifully redeems Josh as a character, but it also really breaks my heart. He was genuinely trying to be a hero, but because he felt he had to do it in absolute secret, he ended up looking like a villain to his own mother.
It perfectly illustrates the tragedy of a lack of communication. If Saffyre had felt safe enough to just go to the police, or if Josh had felt he could actually talk to his distracted parents, they wouldn't have needed to become nighttime vigilantes.
But the adults in their lives had completely failed them. Roan was too busy cheating and managing his image. Kate was too blinded by her own anxiety. The kids felt they had to take matters into their own hands.
So, if Josh and Saffyre were operating as a team, what actually happened on Valentine's night? Why did she disappear? Did Harrison John finally get her?
This is the climax of the novel.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly messy. It's not a clean, cinematic good versus evil showdown. It's a cascading series of errors that turns deeply tragic.
Walk us through the timeline. Saffyre is outside the Fours' house. It's Valentine's night.
Right. She's in her usual spot, watching the house. She sees Roan inside, but then she sees a woman arrive at the front door. It's Alicia.
Roan's secret mistress.
The mistress actually shows up at the family home on Valentine's Day. That is unspeakably bold.
It's a full-on confrontation. And Saffyre, watching from the dark bushes, is completely devastated. She sees the ugly reality of Roan's betrayal playing out right in front of her eyes. She's no longer watching a perfect, idealized family. She's watching a slow-motion car crash.
And the illusion shatters. So then she runs.
She runs. She's highly emotional. She's erratic. She jumps down from a brick wall to chase after Alicia. Maybe she wanted to confront her, or maybe she just needed to see her face closer. We don't really know. But she slips in the dark.
And that's where the blood comes from.
Yes. She cuts her leg very badly on the rough wall. That's exactly where the blood in Owen's garden came from. It wasn't evidence of a violent abduction. It was just a clumsy, frantic accident.
And this is exactly when she runs into Owen.
Yes. Owen is out for his usual late-night insomniac walk. He sees a girl in a hoodie limping by. He stops and asks if she's okay. She's panicked, she's actively bleeding, and she yells something at him as she runs away.
He told the police she called him Clive.
Which confused everyone, including the detectives. But looking closely at the notes, it seems likely she either just mistook him in the dark for someone else, or she was using a prearranged code name that she used with Josh.
But the main point is, the interaction was totally fleeting. Owen didn't grab her. He didn't try to hurt her. She just ran past him and vanished into the night.
So Owen told the exact truth the entire time.
Every single word of his statement was true. But because he was branded as creepy Owen, the literal truth sounded exactly like a murderer's lie.
So where did she go? If she wasn't taken by Owen, why didn't she just go home and get her leg bandaged by her uncle?
Because that same night, fueled by massive adrenaline and profound rage at Roan for being a fraud, rage at the world for ignoring her, she actually tracked down Harrison John.
No way. She found him that night.
She found him, and she confronted him head-on. And in a moment that is both absolutely terrifying and strangely triumphant, she physically hurt him.
She broke his fingers.
She broke his fingers. It's intense.
It really is. She physically disabled the man who had been using his hands to violently assault women in her neighborhood.
But then, of course, reality set in.
Right. The adrenaline fades. She realized she had just severely assaulted someone. She was terrified of the legal consequences and even more terrified of Harrison seeking brutal revenge. So she went to ground.
She made herself completely invisible again.
She hid away. She didn't want to be found until she knew for an absolute fact that she was safe.
So let's look at the final resolution of all these threads.
Yeah.
The police do eventually catch Harrison John,
Aha.
thanks to a trail of undeniable evidence. And Saffyre finally comes home. She's alive.
She is alive. And the ending of the book spends time dealing with the very real aftermath. Because you can't go through a massive trauma like this and just reset to normal.
Let's start with Owen's aftermath. He's proven innocent. He's released from police custody. But his face has been plastered on every tabloid newspaper in the country.
Yeah.
He's been publicly branded a monster. How does a person come back from that level of infamy?
Interestingly, the narrative suggests that hitting this absolute rock bottom is actually the thing that saves his life.
How so? It seems like it would ruin him forever.
Being stripped completely bare forced him to finally look at himself without excuses. He couldn't hide behind his computer screen and his anonymous usernames anymore. There's a really powerful scene where he confronts his estranged father and his father's new wife, Gina, and for the very first time in his adult life, he's honest.
He drops the defensive act.
Yes. He admits out loud that he's deeply unhappy. He tells them, I need to work on myself. He realizes that the incel ideology wasn't a protective brotherhood, it was a poison.
It was keeping him sick and miserable.
Exactly. Now, the book doesn't give him a fairy tale ending. He doesn't magically become a suave, popular guy overnight, but he consciously steps off the path of hatred. He starts to take actual responsibility for his own life instead of defaulting to blaming women for all his problems.
That's a surprisingly hopeful and grounded arc for him. And what about the Fours family? Their perfect facade is pretty much reduced to rubble by the end, right?
The facade is completely irreparably destroyed. Roan is fully exposed to everyone as a covert narcissist. He's not a criminal in the legal sense. He didn't murder anyone. But he is absolutely revealed as the moral vacuum at the center of the story.
He neglected his son, he continuously gaslit his anxious wife, and he grossly exploited his vulnerable patient's trust for his own ego.
And Kate, what happens to her?
Kate finally sees her life clearly. She realizes her marriage is dead and over. But far more importantly, she finally sees Josh. She realizes that the son she constantly pitied for being slow is actually incredibly brave, deeply complex, and fiercely loyal. She stops treating him like a fragile burden and starts genuinely respecting him as a young man.
And finally, Saffyre, the girl whose disappearance started this whole chain reaction.
The book ends with a very quiet, poignant image of her. She's sitting in her bedroom with her new kitten, Angelo. She's scarred both physically and emotionally. But she's no longer playing the role of the victim.
She's a survivor.
She faced her monster, both the literal physical monster, Harrison, and the psychological monster of her past trauma. And she won. She survived them both.
It's incredibly powerful stuff. As we start to wrap this up, I keep coming back to that title, Invisible Girl. It feels like that concept applies to almost every single character in the book in some way.
It really does. Saffyre used invisibility as a physical shield. Owen felt socially invisible, which curdled into extreme bitterness. Josh was practically invisible to his own parents, which ironically allowed him to operate as a hero in complete secret.
And the real danger, the true threat in the story.
The real danger wasn't the weird, creepy guy with the rotting armchair in the driveway. It was the handsome, popular boy from the past, and the rotting secrets hiding inside the beautiful, well-lit, expensive house.
It really forces you to deeply question who we choose to see in our daily lives and who we actively choose to ignore. We walk past the weirdo on the street and instinctively clutch our keys tighter, but we trust the handsome man in the tailored suit without a second thought.
We judge entirely by aesthetics. We judge by surface-level vibes. And Lisa Jewell is telling us very clearly to stop looking at the surface. Look closer at the people around you. Because the real danger is rarely standing right where you think it is.
That is a lot to think about the next time you're walking down a city street at night, looking up at those glowing windows.
It gives you a totally different perspective.
Just remember, everyone hiding behind those lighted windows has an entire complex universe inside them. Try to actually see it.
But, maybe don't camp out in their bushes to figure it out.
Huh, no. Definitely do not do that. Boundaries are still very important.
And honestly, it makes you think about our digital lives, too. We leave these massive digital footprints everywhere. We post all our thoughts online like Owen did, but we remain profoundly anonymous in reality. We think we know people from their profiles or their pristine front lawns. But true safety is often just an architectural illusion. The real person is always hidden behind the drywall.
That's a haunting thought to end on. The architecture of illusion.
This has been an incredible deep dive into Invisible Girl, a novel by Lisa Jewell. It's a gripping thriller, yes, but it's also a deeply uncomfortable mirror held up to society. Go read it, catch all the subtle nuances we could even fit in today, and maybe look a little differently at your own neighborhood.
Thanks so much for listening.
We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive. Goodbye.